Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Sarah Rafson. I'm the Associate Director of Public Programs here at the GSD, and welcome to Return to Nature, the John Hejduk Soundings Lecture, delivered by Kengo Kuma. Whether you're here in the theater or watching tonight's lecture through the live stream, we have closed captioning available, and in a moment, you'll find the instructions on the screen that can help you activate that feature. But before we begin, I do just want to take a brief moment to introduce a couple of upcoming events because they're very exciting coming up at the GSD. This Thursday, April 10th, we'll host The View from the Edge, a variety show that explores the African continent through musical performance, film, and family history. And then on Tuesday, April 15th, David Sheldon Hicks of Territory Studio will discuss his world building in visualization for films such as Guardians of the Galaxy, Ex Machina, Blade Runner 2049, and Dune. So we hope to see you there. But back to tonight's event. This lecture was a truly collaborative effort between our public programs team and many incredible colleagues here at the GSD, but it was all generously spearheaded by Grace Law, Chair of the Department of Architecture, who I would like to invite to the lectern to welcome tonight's guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to see this full house. It's nearly a decade ago that in this very room, Kengo Kuma spoke to the GSD about architecture in the wake of natural disasters, such as the devastating earthquake that had struck Japan in March of 2011. Tonight, and amidst global challenges, I'm pleased to welcome him back to speak on a related theme, Return to Nature, for the John Hejduk Soundings Lecture. We thank everyone who has generously endowed this lectureship, established in 2003, to honor the legacy of our accomplished alumnus, John Q. Hejduk, M.Arch class of 1953. Since the early 2000s, Kengo Kuma's work has often been described as dissolving built form or particleizing it, a term gaining broader application during architecture's second digital turn, to refer to a non-hierarchical aggregation of elements, which in Kuma-san's case bridges computational and artisanal crafts. I'm most intrigued, however, by Kuma-san's statement in 2009. He said, "My aim is not to create particle-like works of architecture. I want to create a condition that is as vague and ambiguous as drifting particles. The closest thing to such a condition is a rainbow." Now, this remark underpins the conceptual shift that Kuma-san's work proposes, and it points toward how we might continue to understand his work today, reimagining architecture as being in a state of flux. A rainbow appears, after all, when sunlight is temporarily yet meticulously refracted through a mist of water droplets. And Kuma-san composes forms and materials to appear as a rainbow or as nature itself. Abstract assemblages of small pieces produce a simultaneity of parts and wholes in a unified ecological phenomenon, mysteriously precise, ineffable, and sublime. Kuma-san's trajectory began at the University of Tokyo, studying vernacular desert architecture under Professor Hara and building construction methods under Professor Uchida. Later at Columbia University, he encountered Kenneth Frampton's writings on critical regionalism. He then returned to Tokyo in the early 1990s to face a financial recession known as the Lost Decade. And at that time, Japanese architecture was critically reconsidering the glitzy excesses of the previous decade's postmodernism. Kuma-san, who founded his eponymous firm in Tokyo in 1990, responded with a profound engagement with materials. Transcending the megastructures of modernism and the nostalgia of the postmodern, he argued that architecture should ultimately disappear, becoming a gentle presence. His use of organic, local materials situated architecture not only in plan, shape, and elevation, but in the tectonic layering of building skins, lattices, and screens that shape our spatial experience while mediating the interior and exterior. Now, despite the modesty of erasing architecture, it would be an oversight in my mind to suggest that Kuma-san's buildings disappear. His now iconic structures are difficult to miss. Kuma-san grapples with architecture's appearance in a way which makes his work all the more complex and enticing. His work with stone, ceramic, and metal, along with his signature medium of timber, illustrates a fascination with the simultaneous presence and non-presence of form, creating an unexpected lightness and porosity in sheer mass. This impressive yet evanescent work stands in conversation with Japanese modernists like Kenzo Tange, whose archive and legacy we are very proud to preserve here at the GSD. While Japanese architecture, like Tange's, enthusiastically embraced modernism in the post-war years, Kuma-san navigated a contrapuntal dialogue with modernist predecessors as with postmodern protagonists. If the monumental formalism of Tange's breathtaking Yoyogi Stadium for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics represents post-war reconstruction at the apex of Japanese modernism, then Kuma-san's Olympic Stadium, constructed less than 2 kilometers away in 2020, embodies our 21st century demands for sustainability and resilience. Composed largely of wood elements organized in deep eaves, evocative of the Japanese vernacular, the design exudes a remarkable delicacy despite its vast scale of 68,000 seats. Kuma-san's intellectual project was prescient in absorbing the impermanence occasioned by Japan's recurrent natural disasters, economic fluctuations, and cultural imperatives that all contribute to a societal understanding of rebirth and renewal. This condition of impermanence is particularly relevant now, given the recent astonishing natural disasters from Bangkok to Los Angeles. Because Kuma-san's techniques often refer to Japanese construction heritage, he also foretold today's emphasis on local knowledge. These values are infused into the hundreds of projects across continents and scales that represent Kengo Kuma's prolific career. He has been honored with international accolades such as the 2016 Global Award for Sustainable Architecture and Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People of 2021. Today, his thriving Tokyo-based practice also operates in Paris, Beijing, Shanghai, and Seoul. And tomorrow, he will receive the 38th Louis I. Kahn Award in Philadelphia. Altogether, Kuma-san's work speaks to the global impulse to attend to the natural environment, rainbows, if you will, comprehensively and expansively. We are honored tonight to return to nature with Kuma-san as our guide. Please join me in welcoming Kengo Kuma.
Yes, thank you, Grace, for the very kind introductions. And today, I want to talk with you about the history of humanity. And my last lecture here is 2016, and after the lectures, we had a difficult time of COVID. And as finally I can come back here, and as the experience of COVID is taught us many things. The people began to feel we need to go back to nature, but after COVID, is becoming a very serious issue for us. So I want to start from the small project. It is the Hiroshige Museum, so that is completed year 2000. And in this project is very important for me. Is Hiroshige is the name of the ukiyo-e painters of 19th century. And Hiroshige is a famous work, Sudden Shower at Atake is 1857. And this ukiyo-e gave a big influence on the history of Western art and also on the history of architecture. And as a point of this artwork is as a relationship. The relationship before me is a wooden bridge, transparent wooden bridge, rivers and forests and the skies are all connected. And the super juxtaposition of layers is the basis of this design. And this is another example of super juxtaposition of layers. And even the rain shows the layers in the rain. And there's how to integrate those natural phenomena is a key point of this as ukiyo-e. And this looks very funny, but actually, this is by Vincent van Gogh. And Vincent van Gogh respected Hiroshige very much. And he made a copy of Hiroshige by himself, by oil paint. And it looks very primitive, but he wants to learn something from Hiroshige, learn the relationship between humanity and nature. He wants to learn from Hiroshige. And another as example, as the influence of Hiroshige is Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright was a big fan of Hiroshige, and he visited Japan many times. He bought many pieces of Frank Lloyd Wright and many pieces of Hiroshige, and a big collection of Hiroshige he had. And now in Boston Museum, you can find the big collection of Hiroshige brought by Frank Lloyd Wright. The Frank Lloyd Wright is the masterpiece. It's a lobby house. The drawing of him was very much influenced by the technique of Hiroshige, method of Hiroshige. The super juxtaposition of layering, the integration of nature and the artifact. So that kind of method he learned from Hiroshige. And actually, so in his book, Wright wrote, without Hiroshige and without Tenshin Okakura, maybe you know Tenshin Okakura, without two Japanese, I couldn't find my method, as he wrote in the book. And it's my Hiroshige Museum. Luckily, I could have a chance to design Hiroshige Museum, as I learned many things from Hiroshige and many things from Frank Lloyd Wright. And this is very simple building. The material I use for this building is mainly the material from the forest behind the building. The roof is covered by the wood. It is also interior. We did use this wood from the forest behind, but the main thing is about this building is this the approach, this cut on the building, and you see the layout of the building. The green forest is above, and the village is down, and this kind of the forest is called Satoyama in Japanese. Sato means village, and Yama means mountain. And Satoyama is mountains behind the village. The people was always living behind the mountain. Because without the natural resources of mountain, the people cannot survive, because they don't have the energy company, they don't have electric company, they don't have gas company. All the energy and for life came from the mountain, and also the material for the building, material for furnitures, as material for food, and everything came from the mountain. And the paddy field, rice field is in front, and the mountain is behind. This is a basic relationship of Japanese villages. But it's not only for Japan. This relationship is the basis of humanity, I think. But in 20th century, people forget that relationship because of big city. In our case, Tokyo. The people thought that everything can come from big city, and forgets the mountain behind. And it's very pity, because the mountain is still there, but it's separated and abandoned, and the condition of the forest is getting very, very bad. And actually, the shrine in the mountain was abandoned. And always, edge of the mountain, they built shrine, because the shrine has been giving the strong message: don't forget mountain, because without mountain we cannot survive. It's a message from shrine. But they've abandoned the shrine, and that means they abandoned natures. And without natures, we cannot survive. And the goal of this Hiroshige Museum is, of course, to have the collection of Hiroshige, but at the same time, to have the path to the mountain, to recover the relationship with the mountain. And then I cut the hole, and I designed the main entrance from backside. But this is not the backside. The parking, in 20th centuries, the urban designs always designing parking in front of the building, but the real entrance of the entrance should be behind, should come from behind. This is our solution for this project. And this is a cut. This is the approach to the shrine. And without this approach, we cannot recover the relationship. I think this relationship is the basis of urban design of Japan. This is as urban design as well as architectural designs, and every detail and every material is very much related with this relationship. And as a material we choose is mostly come from the mountain. The cedar, is the name of wood, is coming from the mountain. And for interior, we try to use the material from the mountain. The stones are also coming from the small quarry of the mountain. And these papers came from the trees from the mountain. And as a craftsmanship of the village helped us to make this beautiful paper. And this is the screens. Those screens showing the relationship. It's a super juxtaposition of layers, the same method as Hiroshige, same method as flank-loaded light. So also the furniture design is related with that kind of method. And it's for other projects outside of Japan, we also try to show that kind of relationship. The material and as a particle is very, very important. And these pavilions we made with a student in Milan, and as coming from the joint system. This joint system is called Chidori joint system, and Chi means thousand, Dori means birds, thousand bird. And there's a very, very precise cutting on wood, and fix the wood like this, and finish. And as a carpenters prepared those units, and the student can assemble it by themselves. And by using the small, tiny unit, so we can create superjuxtaposition and transparency, and with natural material. And after Milan, the project, so we designed this as a small 3-story building, and the structural designers tested the strengths of the joint. This is a system, it's a 10 meters high 3-story building with this kind of joint. Dimension of the section of the wood unit is 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. It's very, very tiny sections. And there's no column, no beams. It's just one single unit assembled together to support the project building. And as in the village of Yusuhara, we designed the wooden bridge. As again, the relationship with the mountain is very important. And we had many wooden bridges, but most of them disappeared. So I want to recover the tradition. And the wooden bridge is covered by the roof. And as the space is used for as a museum. And for the same village, so we designed the Marche Yusuhara Hotel. It's a kind of small hotel. This is not hotel. This is inspiration. And the most important thing is a thatch roof. The thatch roof was very normal, standard material before war, but now it's almost disappeared. So we try to use thatch for the facade of the building. And to have this kind of block is for recycle of thatch. The life of the thatch is 30, in that case, maybe 30, 40 years, and after that, we can recycle the thatch for fertilizers or for the food for cows, that kind of things, we can recycle it. Detail of the thatch. And Starbucks is next client. Starbucks came to us for the special project, the influence of Dazaifu Tenmangu. And Dazaifu Tenmangu is a very, very important shrine in Japan. is built in the 10th century in front of this shrines of Starbucks from the site. And what we did for Starbucks is to show that kind of system. The small particles from the village, from the mountain, assembled together to create the space. And this is not decoration, this is structural system of the building. And we try to create a kind of artificial forest in the town. And in the center of Tokyo, we have this kind of chance to build 40 meters high building by wood. This is in Asakusa. It is also very interesting the planning. Pagoda is here, the main building is here. This is arcade. And this is main gate. The people are enjoying the sequence to the main building. Our site is in front of the temple, and this is need to be 40 meters high building. But we try to divide that building into the 7 floors, and this is a section of the building. And those triangular spaces is used for as machines, and in each floors, people can feel like standing on the earth. And this is rendering, and this is as a completion of the building. And you see the relationship with the pagoda, main building, and this sequence. And there's the small theaters on top of the building, and the cafes on the terrace. And the National Stadium, the Grace mentioned about the Kenzo Tange Stadium, 1964 Olympic. The Kenzo Tange's 64 Olympic building is an amazing building. At the age of 10, my father brought me to the Kenzo Tange building. It is a huge concrete structure, vertical, and the shape is very organic, but its shape is concrete. Material is concrete, but instead of concrete organic building, we try to create the wooden building in the city. This is the towers of Tokyo, skyscrapers of Tokyo. Our site is here. Is a big park, and what we propose is the wooden building by small particles. You see that those particles is plank. The size of the plank is all the 4 inches, width is 4 inches. Every particle is 4 inches, but gap is different. And why is different? It's because we try to control the temperature of the space, the stadium, by bringing natural wind. And the natural wind is we have the data of the direction of the wind, the strongness of the wind, and by computers we have this kind of gap spaces. And in the summertime, the wind come from that direction, the winter come from that direction, and by the calculation, we decided that those pitches and those rhythms. And naturally, we can have this kind of rhythm. And and this showing as the rhythm of the same particles, and also integrated with the wild, the plant of Tokyo. And this as a method is very similar to the traditional the pagoda, traditional buildings. And a series of roof is to protect the wood from natural light and create shadow, and also bringing natural wind to the space. And also the materials. And actually, this building, Horyuji temples, built 7th century. 7th century's wooden building is still surviving. It is a kind of magic, but the secret of this magic is replaceable small particles. And the concrete building is very difficult to replace partially, but wooden building, if some piece are damaged, so we can replace. It is a very a sustainable system. So invented already 7th century, people knew this kind of sustainable recycle system. And I don't think it will survive 1,000 years, but still, we need to replace in some days. And this is a promenade on the higher level. It is open to public. And this is another idea of us. And usually, the stadium and cities are totally separated. And on the event, people can approach to the stadium, but other days it is totally closed. But we propose this kind of the public space in the stadium. But big problem is homeless people love this space. This is perfect space for homeless, and then how to avoid homeless living here is a big issue. We haven't solved yet. And in this space, the main point is the colors of seat. Actually, no people in the stadium because of COVID. The Tokyo Olympics, as you know, the Olympics happened in 2021, but there's no people allowed to get in the stadium. But looks like full of people. This is the magic of the stadium, and the magic of the particle, I think. As magic of nature is based on the particle system. The leaves and branches and every particles are the basis of beauty of nature, and we learn many things from that kind of particle system. And also structurally, we try to make the composite structures by small particles. Wood and steel are combined together. And the nighttime, again, there are no people, but full of people look like, and you can see the colors of the seed as like that. I learned many things from the forest. And China, in 2002, so we designed a great bamboo wall project. It is made by bamboo. Bamboo is also coming from the forest of China, and not expensive material at all. And so we don't want to cut the topography of the place. preserve the topography as possible as can, and the building is following the topography of the place. As the Great Wall is just there, entrance, and again small particles, small units, small pieces. This is tea house, and the super juxtaposition layers. And this is the second Chinese project, Museum of for China Academy of Art in Hangzhou. And again, preserve the topography as possible as can. And the geometries of this is also based on the triangular shape. And triangular shape is good for pixelation. And this is showing the relationship with topography. Not cut the topographies, as following the topography like this. And the materials for the building is coming from the abandoned houses. As a ceramic tile, which was used for the old house, has this diversity. I like this colors. And also we designed the screens by the same material. This is the detail of the screens we designed. And this is the effect of the screens. And the floors is like that. It's just following the topography. And as the building is basically merging into the environment. And it's a newest project in China. The location is Yixing. Yixing is here. And Yixing is known for this kind of pottery. It's a beautiful pottery they're producing. And what we did in Yixing is a museum, but integrated with those factory of potteries. As the same as Hiroshige Museum, we cut the building to create the connection. We don't want to separate the relationship. The connection is always important for the building. It's a kind of urban design. The main axis of the factory is going that way to connect the two parts of the factory. And the material, so we work with craftsmen. And gradually, the dark color to light color, gradually it is connected with the ground to the sky. And it is, the facade is made by the ceramic, but the main structure of the building is the wood. And the geometry-wise, the method we use is as Boolean operations. And Boolean operation is working well with the economical solution for the building. And next is another new project in Seoul, Korea. The Odeum is the name of the museum. It's Audio Museum. And they have the very special collections of the audio system and speaker system in the before war. And as I want to show the particles by aluminum pipes. So again, it is a kind of forest in the city. And the video will start. Yeah. And we worked with the graphic designer Kenya Hara. The Kenya Hara is based now the top graphic designer in Japan, and he made these videos. And he has been working for Muji a long time. He's the artistic director of Muji, and he loves this design, and he made some logo and graphic design of this project. Okay, so, and next project is a very, very new project. It's not completed yet. It is for World Expo 2025. Well, it's next week, but it's not completed yet. This is a Portuguese pavilions for an expo. What we did use for this pavilion is rope. As you know, Portugal is a champion of the age of discovery. The big ships is a symbol of the Portugal. The rope is a symbol of big ships. And we try to use this material for the facade. It is a big challenge. And our challenge is movable rope. I want to bring natural wind to the building. Usually the building is totally fixed, but this building is always moving by the wind. But I don't know it can open next week. Yeah, last week was like that. And in Europe, in France, we did some project. It's a Besançon project with udon structures. And also the relationship with the city is very important. We propose to have the in-between space. So in Japanese, the in-between space is called engawa space. Engawa space is between gardens and building. It's most important for traditional building. If you visit Kyoto, you can enjoy the beauty of engawa. And as engawa can invite the community to the building, and also we propose to have the small creek with a small biotope beside the city. And also cut the building like that to have the connection with river and city, like Hiroshige Museum. And the new project in France is a station. Saint-Denis Players stations and our idea is the station as the garden. the Sandoni areas, there is very few public park, and I want to have the gardens on the station, and also the natural materials for the station. It is a big challenge. And this is the atrium in the stations, to 30 meters deep. And Macron came to the event. And there's Dundee, Scotland is a project of Victoria Albert Museum. So we got hint from the sea cliff. So my first sketch is about the rhythm of the place. And to push the building into the river, it is a kind of a new urban design. The waterfront is very, very important, and we try to push the building into the river to create new relationship of nature and humanity. Again, each particle, each unit is treated as random element, and the angles and the size, everything varies, and can have this kind of effect. And again, separates the building to create the whole, so which connects the city and nature, and like Hiroshige Museum. And before this building was built, the many factories and warehouses occupied the waterfront. As a city planning, the officers decided to demolish all buildings to have the new waterfront with new public access. As the interiors, we have the particles by natural oak, and to create a warmness in the city. A living room for the city is a concept we propose in the competition, and they love that idea. And Prince and Princess came to the opening. And in Denmark, we designed a Hans Christian Andersen Museum. This is a model for the competition. And we push the museum as possible as can to create a garden in the city. And this is a view from skies. The towns in Denmark, its name is Odense, is a very low silhouette town, so we try to integrate. Again, it's a combination of the small particle of wood and the greens that can create some kind of effect. And the new project in Lisbon, Portugal, is a Gulbenkian Museum. And as we propose another Engawa space, and the existing building is gray block, and our proposal is the space between big gardens and the main building. But we don't propose the building, just roof. So the beneath the roof, we have this kind of space, semi-outdoor space, multifunction semi-outdoor space, and exhibitions spaces was buried is underground, and above the ground, just the Engawa space, just the semi-outdoor multifunction space with the tiny steel columns, and the solid steel is used for the structure, and that this is the relationship between the new building, the new roof, and the existing the building. Yeah, that kind of relationship is important. We don't propose box, we propose just a relationship. And instead, the Portland Japanese garden was built in 2017, and as a building is like that, but the most important space is the courtyard. This is the main space, and the intimacy of the small unit can create the village feeling, as we thought, and it is merging into the forest. As Australia, as Sydney, so we propose this kind of community center in the very, very center of Sydney. And the reason is Sydney is a kind of booming city with skyscrapers, but people want to have the intimate space with natural material. The city of Sydney is we work together to create the small community centers with small food court, a local library, and kindergartens, a combination of that kind of things. And also integrated with the park is most important. The building is like the snake, and the tail of the snake is extended to the park. So how to combine with the park is the theme of this project. As a connection and the relationship, again, is the most important. And in Singapore, this is an ongoing project in Singapore. It's a founder's memorial. Founders is Lee Kuan Yew. He actually founded Singapore. And this is a competition, and we propose the park as a memorial. So that approach is very different from other architects' approach. And I learned the story between Kenzo Tange and Lee Kuan Yew. And Kenzo Tange was the advisor of Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew, he names Singapore as a garden city. It is a beautiful naming, and I heard Kenzo Tange advise the garden city idea. And then we tried to learn something from Kenzo Tange, and the green monument in the park. And besides those big projects, we are doing the small project, experimental project. Meadows is a small project in Hokkaido, north of Japan. And as natural material and also soft material is very important. And this material for this building is membrane. We don't want to use hard material. And double layers of membranes can create livable space in the North Country is the theme of this project. And this is showing the sections, 2 layers of membrane, and no insulation at all. The heat comes from the ground. It is a geothermal energy system, and in the Hokkaido areas, as ethnic people of that areas were using this geothermal system. I learned from their system, and it is very, very comfortable in winters. minus 20 degrees, I can survive here. And this small project is for Milano Triennale 2008. It is an umbrella house. And we learned many things from Buckminster Fuller's flower domes, but the difference is unit. So we started from the unit. Unit is umbrella, and 15 students assembled the umbrella house in one day. So the joint is just a zipper. And this is the interior of an umbrella house. And structurally, we did use tensegrity system. And the tension of the membranes, tension of the membrane umbrella, and there's a frame of umbrella work together, the compression tension work together to support the building. And the window is entrance. And actually, a student want to stay night here. And after completion, they drink and stay night. The 15 student stay in one building. And the basic idea of this house is, if the earthquake happens, and we should escape with the umbrella. And if we can find the same umbrella and gather together, build together, and it is a temporary lifestyle after disaster. That is idea. And so water branch is a project for the exhibition home delivery. It's happened 2008 in MoMA, New York. The hint is the poly tank. It's used for construction site. And the good thing for this poly tank is water is controlling the weight of the unit. It is different from normal construction element. And for delivery is the catalog. And this is the poly tank we designed. And this is a process of making the poly tank unit. And assembled together, connected together, to have the flow of waters in the tank. And this is the system, showing the system. The heat collectors is to heat up the waters, and this is student working together. And this idea came from the system of human body. The human body, so we have a lot of cells, and the cells is controlling everything. But this is not the machine. And in 20th century, the understanding of human body is machine. But now the understanding of our human body is as an assembled aggregation of cells. And the cells can make anything. The cells can work as like anything. And this is as a design for interior. So bathtub, so actually this is kitchen, and it's a bed, very small bed for Japanese. But every unit of the house was made by single cells. And so finally, the last project I show you today is Tsumiki. The Tsumiki, it is my friend Ryuichi Sakamoto musicians and me working together for this project. we want to invent the new type of wood block. So this wood block is different from the brick. The wood brick, the Western wood brick is very much related from masonry structural system, but our idea is to create that kind of thinness, thin and transparent unit. But the combinations of those thin units can create anything. And we learned many things from trees, and such diversity is possible by this tiny unit. Yes, last project. So it is an ongoing project. It's also the Venice Biennale project. We call this project as a Maison Domino 3.0, and as an opening of Venice Biennale is as a May as a 7th, as a next month. And instead of this kind of rigid grid system, we propose this kind of soft system by the living tree. This is showing the system of living trees. And as it's a joint, we work together with Italian 3D printer company. It is made by soft material. It's a soft joint. And as the living trees can be fixed by those soft joints. And maybe we can open this installation, but I don't know. It's just next month. And if you have a chance to come to Venice, please check this installation. Today, I show you too many examples. The goal behind those diversity is we should go back to nature, and how to recover nature, how to recover relationship with nature is most important for architects. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kuma-san. That was an incredible trajectory, the walk through the many projects across the world that you are doing right now, and I think that was such a treat, so thank you so much. I'm wondering if we have time for just a few questions. I thought I might start. And I'm curious because, again, because we're able to see so many of your projects, it seems that some of them, there's clearly a relationship between placemaking and the actual method of construction, the particle, the very base condition that you're working with materially. And then some projects appear as though the form came first, the material is applied later. Other projects look very much like the material comes first, and then the form making. Clearly there's a relationship between these things. In your process, can you talk to us about what comes first and how do you think about this?
Yes, basically, I tried to material first approach. And materials, the definition of the material in 20th century is material is cladding, thin surface. And as a structure first, then after the structure was completed, put the material on it. Thin material. It's a kind of cosmetics. As I don't like that kind of cosmetic approach. We try to start from finding the material which will fit the place first, and then after the structure will come. Sometimes material itself can work as a structure. It is an ideal case, but for a bigger project, it's not easy to have that kind of approach. But anyways, the material is a basis. And I think that approach is very similar to making the nest. The birds, if birds want to have the nest, pick up the material, and the structure come after the material. That is a model of our approach.
That's actually a very helpful description. I like that a lot. I suppose another question that I'm curious about, Mario Carpo he's spoken here about computation, and he has drawn similarities between your work and the digital avant-garde. Mm-hmm. But then he has remarked that though visually related, your work bridges the gap between, let's say, a non-quantitative intuition, the craft, for example, and post-human machine logic, and that your work is sort of between these two things. And I was curious to ask you, do you agree with this comment? How do you think of it?
Yeah, so Mario Carpo's as ideas is he started from the comparison of the Alberti as modernism and the current computational designs. He's comparing those three things, and the craftsmanship and the computational design can work together. This is his founding. So I totally agree with his idea. And for achieving this kind of buildings, computational design is very, very necessary. And as grasshoppers is always a best tool for us. And as a structure engineer, that we are sitting on the same platform as a community, communicating very closely, and that is without that kind of platforms, without that kind of computational platforms, we cannot achieve this kind of organic things.
Thank you. I'd like to. We have such a great audience. I'd love to open it up for questions.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture. I did have a question about your use of materials in two projects, the town hall that had the thatch on the facade, and I know another project which you didn't feature today, but the one that was a community center with washi paper walls and also a thatch roof. I think it's very interesting, these choice of materials, because typically when we think of sustainable materials, I think that there's a big emphasis on durability and materials that will last as long as possible because of the embodied energy, and people think that's the way to make something sustainable. But I think I've read in your writings and other people's writings about this opposite way of looking, I think sort of an opposite way of looking at sustainable materials as something that actually needs to be frequently renewed and rebuilt. So I'd be myself interested in pursuing that more, but how do you persuade a client, maybe in those particular projects or in other projects, to embrace the idea of a material like a paper wall or a thatch roof that requires regular replacing? Or you mentioned with wood too, that you can have small pieces of wood that could be replaced, but wood is still, I imagine, more durable than thatch. So how far can we push that, and how have you convinced clients to embrace that idea?
Yeah, possibly the client is the most difficult part, always. And also to use the natural materials, they are worrying about the maintenance.
Right.
Basically, we try to work with the client, not work for the client. Work with the client, we can share the problem together, so we can find the solution of maintenance together. And without that kind of collaboration, we cannot achieve that kind of things. And also, the satisfaction of the project is coming from that kind of collaboration.
If I can ask a follow-up question, are the people who do that maintenance, is it like an external company that has to be brought in at various times to replace it? Or is it the people who are actually operating the building on a daily basis? Can they be involved in repairing things as needed? Or do you really need specialized people to come in every few years or something to do the replacement?
So it's about the maintenance was the question.
Right, so is the maintenance, are the users of the building or the owners in any way involved directly in that maintenance, or is it a very specialized craftsman who has to come in, for example, to replace the paper on the walls or to maintain the roof?
Yes, at the beginning of the project, we are talking about the maintenance and who will do the maintenance, and creating that kind of team is most important for the project, and especially. So to use rice papers is not easy as a paper is such soft materials. If the kids push the papers, it break easily. But traditionally, that kind of soft materials was very necessary for daily life. The softness, without softness, we cannot survive. This is a learning from history, and as we are talking about that kind of that history, and we can learn from the history and for futures, and the learning from the history can help a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture. I was wondering, like, all your project reflect really about the context and the material sensitivity. How do you address when you are designing on an international or foreign land with a different socio-cultural background for the international project specifically? How do you address the culture and the context? What is the process?
As an international project, for us, the project in Japan, the project outside of Japan, are not so different. Actually, we have the 400 staff from 30 countries, and diversity has always exists in my office. And now the construction site our offices are connected by the internet. And the location doesn't matter recently. But the most important thing is we check the construction site by ourselves, and we learn the craftsmanship from the place, and we try to use the local materials as possible as can. That kind of localization is very important. And designed internationally and constructed locally, it is a key point of our period. Okay.
Hi, thank you for the lecture. I'm over here, sorry. I got the sidewalk. I was wondering a little bit about the images that you showed today. You know, they're quite beautiful. The projects are very beautiful. And many of us aren't going to be lucky to be able to see many of these projects in person. So these images are oftentimes the only ways that we're able to experience them. You know, we talked a lot about the organic nature, the connection to nature, and I was wondering, especially in a lot of your museum projects, the buildings are shown very isolated, you know, without people, without objects inhabiting it. What is that relationship to you of this sort of post-construction, sort of pre-inhabitants image making, and what does that mean to you?
As a post-construction, yeah, I think the image I show you today is maybe by the photographers. The photographers treat the building as kind of art piece, and then sometimes looks like separate from the environment, but for the daily life, the most important is continuity with the place, and the people don't think this is art piece. So, and it is part of daily life, and we should design daily life itself And for the lectures, we should show the project as a kind of art, but this is a lecture. But in my practical work I try to communicate to the users and communicate to the community directories and without that kind of close communication with the users, so we cannot achieve anything. That is the basis of our practice.
Hi, thank you, Kuma-san. I'm particularly interested in the idea of the particle that you brought up, and I'm wondering how your practice operates with in conversation with the Japanese metabolist architects, and how the idea of the particle is in conversation with the idea of the module from the metabolist movement.
Yes, the Japanese as we learn many things from Japanese traditional construction system, and it's because the Japanese carpenters prefer the small particles. They don't like the big column, and I think it's learning from their experience. And the forest of Japan is a very small country. The forest is limited, and and sustainability of the forest is important. They prefer to use small tree, and small trees, and cut the tree into small pieces, and those small particles can create something intimate. Is the basis of the design of carpenters. And I want to learn from their method. And by that method, the Japan is keeping the high percentage of the forest. And now 70% of the land is still forest. So because of that kind of particle system. And 70% is an amazing percentage. And in Europe, only Sweden and Finland, that kind of countries, have 70%. And Japan is such as a developed countries, but we have such a big forest. And this is important. And the magic behind that is using small particles, small light, transparent particles. And it is also, that system is good for as a seismic design, earthquake. And the small particles can move, is not fixed. It is move like that. It's very flexible. And structurally, it is a very advanced system. And the steel and concrete system is very, very fixed, and there's no movement. But as a small particle system can absorb the power of earthquake, and we should learn many things from that.
Good afternoon. One of my fellow colleague, he briefly mentioned the metabolic movement, and there was I guess a search for a new identity after the impact of World War II with Kenzo Tenge, Kiyanori Kikutake, and I know that you have built projects that were focused on like disaster and crisis relief. And I'm curious, how has like World War II, as well as a series of natural disasters like the Fukushima disaster or things of that sort, have influenced how you approach design and architecture, and whether or not that will establish a form of peace and reconciliation for those who suffer such tragedy?
Yeah, so that series of natural disasters was was the basis of Japanese designs, and as a good example, the particle system, the flexible structure system is good for earthquake, but at the same time, the recovery after the disasters, as a people found many know-how about the recovery, and using the wood from the forest behind is very helpful to do the quick recovery from the disasters, and also the people knew the best location for the soft building. The building itself is very soft, but they choose the location carefully. That they knew the kind of soft ground and the solid ground. That they prefer the hard ground, and to avoid the earthquake. And that kind of sense of the place is coming from the series of disasters. It is the basis of Japanese design. Okay.
Great, I think we have time for maybe one more question. Oh, there's so many questions.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for your talk. Yeah. I'm wondering, particularly about the Portland project that you showed, which is beautiful, but I'm wondering about kind of the notion of transporting the systems that exist in Japan, a 700-year or older building, how you've worked to spread that knowledge to other places, particularly this country where it's difficult to move the needle on or change culture on structural engineering or thermal engineering, for you to show a building that has no insulation would be very hard for me as an architect to build here, or to build a building out of bamboo would be very hard for me to build here. So I'm wondering how you've worked through that, particularly in this country with your Portland project, but elsewhere as well, how you've kind of, if the client is the first and most difficult problem, if the second problem is maybe the zoning and regulatory officials, how you've pursued the second problem.
Yeah, so to do the project is in a state is we so sometimes not easy as to solve the local condition, but as a good one example in the Portland as a airport project is we did use the castle wall method. Castle wall, the stone wall, stacking the big stone to support the castle wall, and the wall is behind the building of Portland. So we used this method, but the authorities did not give us permission to use that method. They pushed us. They asked us to use a concrete wall. So it is that is bad. We did some research about the castle wall, and as Japanese engineers already tested, compare the concrete and castle wall, and the castle wall is actually sometimes stronger than the concrete wall. I like that kind of the comparison. And as a modern method, as American method, and it's a traditional method, Japanese method. So we want to compare something behind those difference. And through the comparison of two systems, we can find alternative systems beyond the contrast.
Thank you so much. We've learned an incredible amount looking backwards and forwards. Thank you so much for coming to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.